The first thing I heard after dying was not thunder, not crying, not even the hospital monitor I had spent 3 days begging to stop. It was the soft, pretty laugh of Song Iran, floating across classroom 12 like perfume over poison. "Lien, don't be selfish," she said, tapping her manicured nail against my desk. "We're classmates. Finals are tomorrow. Just unlock your revision app and let everyone check the saved answers one more time." I opened my eyes to the sight of her leaning over me in our school uniform, white blouse spotless, blue ribbon perfect, long black hair falling over one shoulder like a shampoo advertisement. Behind her, half the class watched with the familiar, hungry impatience of people who had already decided my things belonged to them. My hand was wrapped around my phone. My thumb rested on the screen. On it, the revision app one had built for myself was asking for a password. For 1 second, my mind split open. I remembered blood on white tiles. I remembered my name being dragged through the school forum. I remembered my father selling his delivery scooter to pay for an appeal that nobody read. I remembered Song Iran standing beneath the honor board, accepting the provincial scholarship that should have been mine, her eyes wet as she told reporters, "I just studied honestly." Then the memories snapped together, hard and clean. I was back. It was the afternoon before finals. Song Iran was asking for the key to my future again. And this time, my thumb did not move. In my first life, that revision app was never meant to become famous. I had created it because I could not afford cram school. Other students had tutors who charged 300 yuan an hour and parents who brought them fruit plates while they solved mock papers. I had a mother who worked nights at a hospital cafeteria, a father whose knees hurt from delivering packages, and a cracked second-hand phone that overheated if I opened 2 apps at once. So I taught myself coding from free videos, copied every mistake I made into categories, scanned past papers, wrote model answer structures, tagged formulas, built memory prompts, and designed a system that forced me to redo questions until my accuracy passed 95%. The app did not contain leaked exam answers. It contained my sweat, my summaries, my wrong turns, my logic maps, my predictions based on syllabus patterns. By senior year, it had become my secret weapon. Then Song Iran noticed. At first, she asked sweetly, borrowing my notes, just once because she was tired from hosting the school charity gala. Then she asked for my saved answer templates because we're all competing against outside schools, not each other. Then the class monitor said it was unfair for one person to keep such a powerful tool private. Then our homeroom teacher, dazzled by Song Iran's fake helplessness, told me to be generous. And because I was 18, exhausted, and terrified of being hated, I unlocked it. I watched my private work spread from one phone to 10, from one class group to the entire grade, from my hands to Song Iran's perfect ones. She memorized my structures, polished them with her expensive tutor, and walked into finals wearing my mind like borrowed perfume. But the app had one feature nobody understood except me. It synced every user under my account unless I created separate permissions. Back then, I was naive enough to leave the master vault open. Everyone could access the saved answer bank, the high-frequency essay templates, the maths trap question corrections, the chemistry mechanism maps, and the final emergency pack I had built from 3 years of mock exams. They did not learn the concepts. They memorized the outputs. Song Iran especially turned my work into a ladder. She spent the night before finals pressing my screen recordings into her mind. In the exam hall, when the essay topic changed by only 3 words, she knew exactly which of my templates to twist. When the physics question hit a sign error, she remembered my red warning note, "Do not cancel negative direction." When the literature prompt asked for emotional restraint instead of narrative climax, she copied my structure so closely that even my commas came back to haunt me. She ranked first. I ranked third, still high enough to survive, until an anonymous report claimed I had used an illegal revision app to store exam answers. The screenshots were real, but incomplete. They showed my app. They showed saved model answers. They showed timestamps. They did not show that I had created everything before exams, from public syllabus materials, with no leaks. Song Iran cried in the principal's office and said she had only opened the app because I forced everyone to join, because I wanted the class dependent on me. My results were frozen. My scholarship disappeared. My mother fainted from humiliation at the school gate. 3 months later, when the appeal failed and the university offer expired, I stepped off a curb in the rain without looking. A truck horn screamed. Then Song Iran laughed, and I woke up. So when she asked me to unlock the app again, I smiled. Not a bright smile. Not a villainous smile either. Just the small, polite smile girls like me learn when we are being pushed toward a cliff, and everyone calls it teamwork. No, I said. The classroom changed temperature. Someone in the back dropped a pen. The class monitor, Guachun, frowned as if I had broken a rule written into the sky. What do you mean no? We've been using it for review all week. That was not true. They had been begging for it all week. I had been refusing in this life for exactly 12 minutes, which to them felt like oppression. Song Iran blinked, delicate confusion spreading across her face. She had mastered that expression, the one that made teachers soften and boys straighten their backs. Lien, are you angry because people praise me for improving? I already told them your app helped too. Helped too. In my first life, that phrase became a knife. She never stole. She was helped. She never copied. She was inspired. She never framed me. She was worried about fairness. I turned my phone face down. My app is locked for personal revision now. Everyone should use their own notes. I said it calmly, but inside my ribs, something ancient and furious stood up. Guachun slapped his palm on my desk. Stop pretending. You know finals decide scholarship recommendations. If our class average drops because you're being petty, Teacher Zhao will ask why. Several students murmured agreement. A girl from the window row whispered loudly, she only acts poor when she wants sympathy. Now she wants to gatekeep. I looked at her and remembered her name on the First Life forum post. Honestly, Su Lian always gave me weird vibes. She had used my chemistry map the night before the exam and still called me suspicious. A strange peace settled over me. It is easier to endure betrayal when the wound has already killed you once. I picked up my phone, opened the settings screen, and changed the app from normal lock to full exam mode. The screen flashed, Master Vault encrypted. Cloud sync paused. External devices require owner biometric reset. Failed login attempts will trigger data isolation. Song Iran's eyes flickered. Only for a heartbeat, but I saw it. Not confusion. Recognition. Fear. She knew more about my app than she should have known. In the first life, I thought she had only borrowed screenshots. Now, watching her pupils tighten, I realized she had already logged into a clone session. The pattern interruption came from the loudspeaker. All senior students, submit personal electronic devices to your homeroom teachers before leaving campus. Final security inspection begins at 5 p.m. A groan rolled through the room. Teacher Zhao entered carrying a cardboard box labeled Class 12 devices, her hair pinned too tightly and her mouth already shaped like disappointment. Phones on the desk. Power off after I verify your exam registration codes. No exceptions. Then her gaze landed on me, and I saw the First Life script preparing itself. In that version, Song Iran had said, Teacher, Su Lian's app has all our revision materials. Can we check it once before submitting? Teacher Zhao had sighed. I had unlocked it. Everyone had copied frantically, and the school camera had captured me passing my phone around like evidence. This time, before Song Iran could speak, I raised my hand. Teacher, my phone has a personal study app with private notes. I've locked it and will submit it powered off. Teacher Zhao paused, surprised by my directness. Guachun scoffed. Private? Half the class needs it. Teacher Zhao looked between us. She liked class harmony more than justice. I knew her next sentence before she formed it. Su Lian, finals are tomorrow. Don't create conflict. I stood up, placed my phone in the box, and said, then there won't be conflict. Nobody can use it now. For a moment, nobody moved. My phone lay at the bottom of the cardboard box like a sealed bomb. Song Iran's smile thinned. Teacher Zhao frowned. But with the loudspeakers still reminding teachers about device collection, she could not openly tell me to unlock it. Instead, she turned to the class. Use printed notes. The school has repeatedly said electronic revision should not be shared carelessly. That sentence, which should have protected me in my first life, arrived one life too late. Song Iran recovered quickly. She lowered her eyelashes and gave a tiny laugh. It's okay. Lien must have her reasons. I still remember most of it. The boys around her immediately softened. Iran, you're too kind. Don't worry, you'll still rank first. Some people can't stand seeing others succeed. I let them talk. Noise is useful before a collapse. It shows you exactly where the ceiling is cracked. While they comforted the school beauty, I watched her hands. Her left thumb kept tapping the side of her own phone inside her blazer pocket. Not texting. Not scrolling.
Counting.
She was calculating how much of my app she still had saved offline. After dismissal, I did not go home. I walked to the old library building behind the sports field, the one students avoided because the Wi-Fi barely reached and the vending machine only sold warm water. I had hidden there often in my first life when the accusations began, reading forum comments until my eyes burned. This time, I opened my backup tablet, the one my father had bought secondhand for my university dream, and I had been too ashamed to use at school because its screen had a yellow line down the middle. The app dashboard loaded slowly. Then the access logs appeared. My own device. My tablet. 2 old sessions from my laptop. And 1 unknown device labeled SYR iPhone. Song Iran. My breath did not shake. My hands did not tremble. In the first life, evidence always arrived after the damage, like an ambulance after a funeral. This time, I had it before the exam. She had logged in 3 days ago using a temporary link I once sent to our class group during a mock review. She had not just viewed my notes. She had saved the final answer vault to her local cache, flagged 386 entries, exported 91 model responses, and attempted to duplicate the encrypted prediction folder twice. The app had blocked the exports because I built it clumsily but stubbornly. Still, she had enough to imitate me. Unless I changed the rules. I opened the admin panel and created 3 versions of the vault. Version A, the real one, stayed on my tablet only. Version B, the shared review pack from harmless public questions, remained accessible to old screenshots. Version C was a mirror designed to look like the final pack but filled with subtle traps. Essay structures that answered adjacent prompts, chemistry pathways missing conditions, math shortcuts that worked only when variables were positive, biology definitions that sounded elegant but reversed cause and effect. I did not plan to send it to anyone. I did not need to. Song Iran's clone session was already trying to reconnect every 30 seconds. When I changed the master vault to exam mode, her offline cache began requesting verification. I watched the logs like a doctor watching poison enter a vein. SYR iPhone. Failed biometric handshake. SYR iPhone. Attempting cached recovery. SYR iPhone. Requesting latest version. I set the response manually. Provide locked mirror metadata only. Her phone would show the titles she expected. It would show the folders. It would show the saved answers as grayed out cards with a message. Content requires owner unlock. Preview restored from cache. If she panicked and forced the preview open through her clone, she would not get my real notes. She would get the traps. Was that cruel? Maybe. But I remembered my mother kneeling in the school office, begging them to check server logs while Song Iran dabbed tears from the corner of her eye. Cruelty had already entered the room. I was only changing its address. The night before finals, our class group exploded. Does anyone have screenshots of Su Lien's final pack? My saved cards disappeared. The app says access denied. Mine still shows previews, but they look weird. Then Guichin tagged me 13 times.
Su Lien, et lai.
I did not answer. Song Iran finally appeared with her usual gentle authority. Everyone calm down. Don't pressure Lien. We can rely on ourselves. 3 seconds later, a private message arrived from her. Lien, I know you're upset.
Can we talk?
I don't want finals to ruin our friendship. Friendship. In my first life, she had visited my hospital room after the investigation began. She brought lilies even though I was allergic to the smell. She sat beside my bed, held my cold hand, and whispered, "If you apologize now, maybe the school will only cancel your score, not expel you." I had asked her why. She smiled sadly. "Because you should never have tried to stand above me." I stared at her new message until the screen dimmed. Then I replied, "Study hard." She typed for a long time, stopped, typed again, then sent only a smiling emoji. I could almost hear her teeth grinding behind it. At home, my mother had left rice porridge on the table with a note. "Eat before revision. Don't sleep too late." My father's delivery jacket hung by the door, rainwater dripping from the hem. In the first life, this apartment had become a courtroom. Neighbors whispered outside our door. My parents stopped turning on lights at night because they thought darkness made shame smaller. Now the kitchen smelled of ginger and soy sauce. The old fan clicked every fourth rotation, and my father's spare helmet sat beside the shoe rack like an ugly blessing. I ate slowly, every spoonful a promise. Then I revised from my real version A until midnight, not memorizing answers, but sharpening decisions. For literature, I practiced adapting structure. For maths, I checked domain restrictions. For chemistry, I wrote mechanisms from principles instead of patterns. For biology, I tested myself backward. Definition to process, process to example, example to exception. Outside, rain began tapping the windows. In another timeline, that rain had been the sound of my future being washed into a gutter. In this one, it sounded like applause held very far away. The morning of finals, the school gates looked like the entrance to a temple built for anxiety. Parents crowded outside with umbrellas and plastic bags of breakfast. Students wore expressions ranging from fake calm to open terror. Security banners hung from the fence. Integrity creates the future. Cheating destroys it. I almost laughed. Song Iran arrived in a white car, stepping out as if cameras were already there. Her mother adjusted her collar. Her father, a district education donor, spoke to teacher Zhao near the gate. In my first life, those connections became invisible hands pushing doors closed in my face. Today, they looked like ropes she had tied around herself. When she saw me, her smile bloomed instantly. "Lien, good morning. Did you sleep?" "Very well," I said. Her gaze dropped to my empty hands. "No phone. Submitted yesterday." "That's good." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes searched me like drawers. Some students were worried because the app locked them out. You know, people get desperate before exams. "Then they should breathe," I said. Desperation wastes oxygen. For the first time in 2 lives, Song Iran had no immediate answer. The first exam was Chinese literature. The hall smelled of paper, disinfectant, and fear. Desks stood in rigid rows beneath buzzing lights. Our school had mixed classes to prevent copying, but fate, or whatever cruel clerk managed rebirth schedules, placed Song Iran 2 rows ahead and 1 column to the left of me. I could see the back of her head, her perfect hair tied with a pale ribbon. Before papers were distributed, the invigilator walked the aisles with a metal detector. A boy from class 9 was caught with wireless earbuds and began shaking so badly he nearly knocked over his desk. The hall watched in horrified silence as he was escorted out. Pattern interruption number 1. Fear became real before the paper even started. Song Iran did not turn around, but I saw her shoulders stiffen. Did she have a second phone? A smart card? Printed scraps? In the first life, she had no need for such crude tools because she had my memory bank inside her head. But now her saved answers were locked, her confidence cracked, and cracked people reach for ugly solutions. The paper landed face down. When the bell rang, I flipped it over. The main essay prompt asked us to compare silent resistance in 2 texts and evaluate how restraint creates moral force. My real app had predicted a theme around selfhood under pressure and included flexible structures. Version C, the trap mirror, contained a gorgeous but fatally wrong template about dramatic confession as liberation. It sounded close enough to tempt anyone who memorized headings instead of understanding the syllabus. 2 rows ahead, Song Iran froze. I could see it in the way her pen hovered without touching paper. Then she began writing quickly. Too quickly. Her shoulders relaxed with the relief of someone recognizing a sentence she had swallowed whole. My pulse slowed. She had taken the bait. Not because I sent it. Not because I forced her. Because when denied another person's mind, she still chose theft over thought. I wrote my essay around silence as agency, using one text to show suppressed grief and the other to show public restraint. Halfway through, I felt a strange grief of my own. In my first life, I had wanted only to beat her. In this life, I realized beating her was not the point. The point was to stop measuring my worth by the shadow she cast. Then the invigilator stopped beside Song Iran's desk. "Student, why is your admission card folded?" My pen paused. Song Iran looked up, innocent. "It got wet this morning." "Unfold it." The hall went still. She unfolded the card. Nothing fell out. A few students exhaled. The invigilator inspected it, returned it, and moved on. Song Iran's hand trembled once, then steadied. She had survived that moment, but survival is not victory. Her next paragraph grew messier. She crossed out 2 lines, rewrote one,
Crossed it out again.
because the trap template could carry her through an opening, maybe even a middle, but the prompt demanded comparison. It demanded judgment. It demanded a brain awake inside the borrowed language. I finished with 8 minutes to spare and checked my thesis twice. When the bell rang, I put down my pen. Song Iran kept writing for 3 extra seconds until the invigilator snapped, "Stop." Her face flushed. A tiny violation, almost nothing. But almost nothing becomes evidence when the room has already learned to watch you. Outside the hall, students erupted into the usual post-exam autopsy. "What did you write for restraint? Was the second text ironic? Did anyone mention moral authority?" Guochen pushed through the crowd towards Song Iran. "Iran, you must have nailed it. What was your thesis?" She smiled, but the corners of her mouth looked stapled on. "I wrote about confession." Silence fell in a small circle around her. Someone said, "Confession?" But the prompt said silent resistance. She laughed lightly. "Yes, confession after silence. It's a layered interpretation. In my first life, everyone would have accepted that because Song Iran said it prettily. This time, panic had made the class less obedient. A boy frowned. But the question specifically said restraint creates moral force. If you focus on confession, isn't that off? Her eyes cooled. There are many ways to approach literature. Then she looked at me. "What did you write, Lien?" The trap was obvious. If I answered, she could compare and adjust for the afternoon exam. If I refused, she could call me secretive again. So I said, "I wrote what I understood." It was the kind of sentence teachers liked and thieves hated. Maths came after lunch. Between exams, the school kept us in supervised classrooms. No phones, no bags, no whispering near windows. The cafeteria served steamed buns that tasted like wet paper. Song Iran sat 3 tables away, surrounded by her usual orbit, but she barely touched her food. Her best friend, Lu Meng, leaned close and whispered something. Song Iran shook her head sharply. Guochen kept glancing at me as if my calmness was an insult. Teacher Zhao walked around telling everyone not to discuss questions, which of course made everyone discuss them more softly. Then another interruption cracked the day open. The deputy principal entered with 2 IT staff and asked 3 students to step outside. One of them was from our class. Not Song Iran. A boy named Heejun, who had bragged in the group chat that he had offline previews for my app. His face turned gray. The IT staff carried a tablet showing login records from the school Wi-Fi. I had not reported anything yet. This meant the school's exam security system had flagged unusual access to encrypted study materials after device collection. My app had become visible to them because Song Iran's cloned session and other cached devices kept pinging the network from campus. The first domino had fallen without my hand touching it. Song Iran watched Heejun leave. For once, she forgot to arrange her expression. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, then darted toward me. I held her gaze. I wanted her to understand exactly one thing. The floor under her was not floor. It was paper. Heejun returned 20 minutes later, sweating. He had not been disqualified because he had no device on him during the exam, but he had been warned that any unauthorized electronic access linked to finals would be investigated. The classroom became a refrigerator. Students who had cursed me the night before now avoided looking at me. Some were frightened of being caught. Some were angry I had not protected them from the consequences of stealing from me. That is the funny thing about people who take your labor. When the stolen thing burns their hand, they blame you for not labeling it hot. I opened my printed formula sheet and revised quietly. Song Iran took out a blank piece of paper and began writing from memory, but after 2 lines, she stopped. Without the app feeding her confidence, her handwriting looked smaller. The maths exam was where my first life had truly been stolen. I had ranked first in every mock because I loved maths the way some people love music. It was clean, stern, and honest. A number could be hidden, but not persuaded. A proof did not care if you were beautiful. Song Iran, who preferred subjects where elegance could disguise gaps, had used my error bank to avoid the exact traps that usually caught her. In the final, there had been a function problem with a domain restriction and a probability question with conditional wording. She copied my mental warnings and passed me by 2 marks. This time, when I opened the paper, I nearly laughed aloud. The domain problem was back, not identical, but close enough to recognize the examiner's fingerprint. Version C's trap note said, assume x greater than 0 after squaring to simplify. A fatal shortcut. The real note said, never square before isolating sign conditions, track excluded values. I solved carefully, circling restrictions before touching the algebra. 2 rows ahead, Song Iran began fast again. Fast at the wrong moment. Fast like a person sprinting toward a glass door. Halfway through, the hall lights flickered. A collective gasp rose and died. Rain hammered the roof hard enough to make the windows tremble. The invigilator announced that extra time would be added if power failed, but the lights steadied. Pattern interruption number 2. The room remembered it had a body. Pen slowed. Someone coughed. Someone whispered a prayer. I turned the page and found the probability question. It involved choosing students from overlapping clubs, worded to punish anyone who treated, given that like decoration. Version C had a polished solution that reversed the condition. I pictured Song Iran memorizing it at 2 a.m., telling herself she had rescued enough from the locked app to win. I pictured my first life self, sitting in a disciplinary room while adults who had never opened my code told me my answer bank looked suspicious. My hand tightened around my pen. Then I forced myself back to the page. Revenge could wait. Conditional probability could not. I drew the table, labeled the denominator, checked the complement, and wrote the answer.
Clean. Honest. Meaning.
With 10 minutes left, a chair scraped violently. Everyone looked up. Song Iran had dropped her pen. It rolled beneath the desk behind her. The invigilator picked it up and placed it on her table. Continue. But Song Iran did not move for a full second. Her face had gone pale under the fluorescent light. Later, I would learn why. She had reached the final proof, the one version C framed as a standard induction problem. It was not. It required contradiction using parity, and if you began with induction, you could fill a page beautifully and prove nothing. Song Iran loved beautiful pages. Teachers loved them too, until marks forced honesty. She wrote furiously until the bell. When papers were collected, her fingers left faint crescent marks on her answer booklet. Outside, she did not ask anyone about the paper. She walked straight to the bathroom with Lu Meng chasing after her. Guochen watched her go, then turned on me. Are you satisfied? I blinked. With what? You knew people relied on your app. Now everyone's unstable. I looked at him for a long moment. If everyone's stability depended on my locked notes, maybe finals are doing their job. That sentence spread faster than any answer pack. By evening, half the grade had screenshotted it from someone's retelling. Maybe finals are doing their job. Some mocked me. Some praised me quietly. Some said I had a main character disease. I did not care. At home, my father placed a boiled egg beside my textbooks and said, awkwardly, "Your mother says protein helps memory." He had never known how to comfort with words. He comforted with objects, an umbrella by the door, a sharpened pencil, an egg still warm in its shell. I almost cried over it. Instead, I asked, "Dad, if someone uses your delivery account without permission and gets you blamed, what would you do?" He frowned. "Change the password. Report the login. Keep records." "Even if they say you're selfish?" He snorted. People who call locks selfish usually wanted to steal. My father, who had left school at 16, understood in 10 seconds what my teachers failed to understand in 3 months. I peeled the egg carefully and ate it with salt. Then I exported every access log, every failed sync, every cloned device request, and every timestamp from the app. I saved copies to my tablet, a USB drive, and an email draft scheduled nowhere. Evidence, unlike people, should never be kept in one place. Day 2 began with biology and chemistry. Science had always been Song Iran's weakest area, though she hid it under color-coded notes and the confidence of someone whose tutor pre-chewed every concept. My app's science vault was my masterpiece. I had built pathways like maps, with arrows showing not only what happened but why it could not happen another way. In my first life, Song Iran memorized enough of those maps to fake understanding. In this life, Version C contained traps that sounded like common student misconceptions dressed in elegant language, confusing competitive and non-competitive inhibition, reversing transcription and translation, treating equilibrium shifts as changes in constants, mixing up anode signs between galvanic and electrolytic cells. Before entering the hall, I saw her under the staircase, whispering fiercely into Lu Meng's ear. "Find the old screenshots. Not the new ones. The old ones." Lu Meng looked close to tears. "I deleted them after saving the app pack. Then recover them."
How?
Song Iran's face changed. For a second, the school beauty vanished, and something hard looked out through her eyes. "Use your brain for once." Lu Meng flinched. I walked past without slowing. In my first life, Lu Meng had testified that I pressured everyone. Maybe she had believed it. Maybe she had only feared being abandoned by Iran. Either way, fear was beginning to change sides. The biology section opened with a question about enzyme regulation in metabolic pathways. I smiled despite myself. It was almost too perfect. Version C's summary stated that non-competitive inhibitors always bind the active site because they compete for function rather than structure. A sentence so smooth it could seduce a desperate memorizer. The real concept was obvious if understood. Non-competitive inhibitors bind elsewhere and alter activity. I answered and moved on. Then came gene expression, membrane transport, and a data interpretation graph that required noticing units. I loved data questions because they punished decoration. 2 rows ahead, Song Iran turned pages with increasing violence. Her ribbon had loosened. A strand of hair stuck to her cheek. For years, teachers had called her graceful under pressure. They never understood that pressure is only pressure when the world stops bending around you. The chemistry half was worse for her. The equilibrium question included a temperature change and asked about K, not just position. Version C's trap said K remained unchanged for concentration and pressure changes, then carelessly implied temperature only changed rate. A memorizer would write half right, half dead. I wrote the explanation slowly. Temperature changes K because equilibrium constant depends on temperature. Concentration changes position, but not K. It felt less like revenge than surgery. Cut the confusion. Remove the rot. Near the end, an invigilator announced, "Students, keep your answer booklets flat. We have received reports of copied formula cards hidden under admission slips in another hall." A ripple of fear passed through us. Song Iran's hand jerked. Something tiny slipped from beneath her sleeve. Not paper, not a device, just a transparent sticky tab with colored markings. It landed near her wrist. I saw it. The student beside her saw it. The invigilator did not. Song Iran covered it with her palms so smoothly that in my first life, I would have doubted my own eyes. This time, I did not need to expose it. Not yet. People like her always believe surviving one close call proves they're clever. Actually, it teaches them to risk the next. The bell rang. Papers were collected. As we stood, The transparent tab clung briefly to her sleeve again, marked with tiny color codes. Not answers, perhaps.
Topic Q.
Enough to be suspicious. Enough to matter if found with other evidence. Lu Meng saw it too. Her face went white. After the exam, Song Yiran pulled Lu Meng into the corridor corner near the trophy cabinet. I followed at a distance, pretending to check the seating list. Their reflection appeared in the glass among old debate trophies. Song Yiran's voice was low but sharp. You saw nothing. Lu Meng whispered. Yiran, what was that? A bookmark sticker. During an exam? Don't be stupid. If they check cameras, Song Yiran grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise in obvious places. Hard enough that Lu Meng stopped speaking. I watched the scene reflected between gold plastic cups and engraved names. In the first life, I had thought Song Yiran's power came from beauty. It did not. Beauty was only the wrapping. Her true power was making people participate in their own silencing. I took out a small notebook and wrote the time, place, and what I had seen. Not because a handwritten note could convict her. Because memory becomes sharper when you give it a spine. By lunch, rumors had changed flavor. Yesterday, I was selfish. Today, I was dangerous. Someone claimed I had intentionally corrupted the app to sabotage classmates. Someone else said Song Yiran's essay had gone off topic because of my fake templates. I wanted to stand on a chair and ask why anyone was using templates they had no right to access, but I stayed quiet. Silence, after all, had been the literature theme. Teacher Zhao called me into the empty art room during the break. The smell of paint and dust wrapped around us. She closed the door, then softened her voice. Su Lian, I know finals are stressful, but several students say your app malfunction affected their preparation. There it was, the adult version of Guo Chen's accusation, polished with concern. I folded my hands. Teacher, my private app was locked before device collection. I did not distribute exam materials. But you previously allowed classmates to view it. Viewing my notes once does not give permanent ownership. Her brows drew together. You're very defensive. I looked at her, and for one dangerous second, I wanted to tell her everything. That in another life, her desire for harmony had helped destroy me. That she had accepted Song Yiran's tears over my logs. That she had called my mother emotional, while my mother shook from fear. Instead, I opened my tablet and showed her the Access dashboard screenshot. An unknown device cloned my session without permission. I locked the app to protect my work. Should I report it formally? Teacher Zhao's expression changed. Not guilt. Not yet. Discomfort. Adults dislike conflict until conflict creates paperwork. Then they dislike whoever can prove it. Where did you get this? From my app's admin panel. I built it. You built the app? She knew, vaguely, but had never taken it seriously. In her mind, apps came from companies, notes came from diligent girls, and poor students did not create systems sophisticated enough to threaten reputations. I zoomed in on the login label, SYR iPhone. Her lips parted slightly. Song Yiran's initials were too obvious to ignore, too dangerous to acknowledge. This could be a coincidence. Yes, I said. That's why I'm asking whether to report it formally, so IT can verify device identity. She closed the tablet cover gently, as if it were a sleeping animal. Don't escalate during finals. Focus on exams first. In my first life, I would have obeyed and mistaken delay for wisdom. This time I smiled. Of course. I've already backed everything up. She heard the second sentence clearly. Her hand tightened around the tablet before she gave it back. The afternoon exam was English. Song Yiran usually excelled there because performance and language are cousins. But finals English included a writing section where memorized templates could betray you if the prompt shifted. Version C's trap writing pack had a beautiful opening line about technology connecting hearts across distance. The actual prompt asked whether constant digital connection makes young people less capable of independent judgment. Close enough to lure, far enough to punish. When the exam began, I wrote a balanced argument. Connection expands access, but dependence on saved answers weakens personal reasoning. I did not mention revision apps. I did not need to. The irony sat quietly between my sentences, smiling with all its teeth. Song Iran wrote fast again, then slower, then fast in bursts. Her confidence now came in spasms. During the listening section, a speaker malfunctioned. The audio stuttered on the sentence, "Students must learn to think for themselves," repeating think for themselves 3 times before the invigilator restarted it. The entire hall shifted uneasily. I lowered my head to hide a laugh. Even the machine had joined the prosecution. The third day of finals was the day my first life ended socially. Not physically, that came later. But socially, it ended after the final exam when the anonymous report hit the school system and my name became dirt before sunset. I woke before dawn with my heart punching my ribs. For a few minutes, rebirth did not feel powerful. It felt like being trapped in a burning house because you knew which room would catch next. I washed my face in cold water until my skin hurt. My mother knocked softly and entered with a red string bracelet. "For luck," she said, embarrassed by her own superstition. I let her tie it around my wrist. In the first life, when my results were frozen, she had blamed herself for not buying me better tutoring, better clothes, better everything. I had never hated Song Iran more than when my mother apologized for being poor. This time, I hugged her. She stiffened, then hugged me back. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "I just wanted to." My father shouted from the kitchen, "Don't make her cry before exams." My mother laughed and wiped her eyes anyway. The sound followed me all the way to school like armor. At the gate, a notice had been posted. Due to suspected unauthorized electronic revision material circulation, all senior students may be subject to random inspection. Cooperation is mandatory. Students crowded around it, whispering. Some looked guilty. Some looked furious. Song Iran stood near the board, reading calmly, her face restored to porcelain. She had prepared.
Of course she had.
People like her do not panic forever. They convert panic into strategy. When she saw me, she walked over alone.
No orbit.
No witnesses close enough to hear clearly. "Su Lien," she said, dropping the sweetness. My full name sounded different in her mouth, stripped of decoration. "You think locking the app makes you noble?" "No. Then what do you think it makes you?" "The owner." Her jaw tightened. "Be careful. If the school investigates electronic materials, your app is the source. You built it. You stored answers. You gave people access. Do you really think they'll blame everyone else before blaming you?" The old threat. The one that worked in my first life because I believed authority followed truth automatically. I leaned closer and spoke softly. "Iran, did you know clone sessions keep device identifiers even after local cache is deleted?" Her face did not move, but the blood left her lips. I continued. "Good luck today." The final major exam was Integrated Humanities, the scholarship-weighted paper that combined history analysis, political theory, and application essays. Song Iran's father cared most about this one because the Provincial Recommendation Committee valued leadership literacy. In my first life, she had used my answer structures to sound principled while stepping over my body. This time, I expected her to be desperate, but I underestimated her. 10 minutes before the exam, as students lined up outside the hall, a commotion broke near the entrance. A disciplinary officer was checking clear pencil cases. When he reached me, he found nothing except pens, ruler, eraser, admission card, and my mother's red bracelet. Then Song Iran stepped forward, voice trembling just enough. "Teacher, I don't want to accuse anyone, but I saw a student using a backup device near the old library after school 2 days ago. I was scared to speak earlier." The line went silent. The disciplinary officer frowned. "Who?" Song Iran looked at me, her eyes filled with tears on command.
Lien, I'm sorry.
"I know you'll hate me, but finals must be fair." For 1 second, the first life reached through time and wrapped its hands around my throat. Same tears, same timing, same weapon, fairness. Students turned. Gua Chen's face lit with vindictive certainty. Teacher Zhao, standing near the hall doors, went pale because she remembered the tablet screenshot I had shown her. The disciplinary officer turned to me. Su Lian, step aside. My body obeyed, but my mind stayed clear. This was why she had waited. Not to win through exams. To drag me into suspicion before the scholarship-weighted paper, destabilize me, and redirect the investigation toward my app. Beautiful.
Cool. Familiar.
Do you have any device on campus? He asked. No phone. No tablet in my possession. Did you use a device after collection 2 days ago? Yes, I said.
Gasps.
Song Iran's tears shone brighter. I continued. Off-campus device collection applied to phones submitted by students. I used my personal tablet after dismissal in the old library building before leaving campus, where no exam materials were accessed or distributed. The tablet is at home. My app logs show I was securing my private notes after an unauthorized cloned login. The officer's eyebrows moved. Song Iran had expected denial. Denial looks like guilt when someone else controls the frame. Truth, delivered plainly, forces the frame to widen. Teacher Zhao stepped forward reluctantly. She did show me a screenshot of suspicious access yesterday. Song Iran's eyes snapped to her. Betrayal flashed across her face before she buried it under tears. The disciplinary officer asked, "Do you have the logs now?" I shook my head. No device. But I emailed a copy to myself last night and can provide it after the exam. If necessary, school IT can compare access timestamps with Wi-Fi records. I kept my voice steady, though my palms were damp. The officer studied me, then Song Iran. Any student making accusations during finals must submit a written statement. False or malicious reports will be handled severely. Song Iran pressed a hand to her chest. I understand. I only want fairness. He nodded. Then fairness includes not delaying another student's exam without evidence. Su Lian enter. The line shifted. Something invisible moved with it. Not trust, not yet, but doubt. Doubt is the first crack in a statue. Inside the hall, my hands shook for the first 5 minutes. I will not pretend I became fearless because I was reborn. Trauma is not erased by time travel. It simply recognizes old rooms. The paper blurred. My mother's bracelet pressed against my wrist. I breathed in for 4 counts, out for 6, the way I had taught myself during panic attacks after the first life accusation. Then the first essay question came into focus. Discuss how public narratives can be manipulated by selective evidence, and evaluate the role of institutional responsibility in restoring justice. I stared at it. For a wild moment, I wondered whether the universe had a sense of humor or a debt. Then I began writing. Not emotionally. Precisely. I defined selective evidence. I explained how authority can amplify false narratives when it prioritizes reputation over verification. I argued that institutions restore justice not by demanding silence, but by preserving records, protecting the accused from social punishment, and investigating power as carefully as weakness. I used historical examples. I used theory. I did not use Song Iran's name. I did not need to. My essay knew her. Across the hall, Song Iran struggled. I could not see her paper, but I could see the rhythm of collapse. She wrote an opening, paused too long, crossed out, wrote another, tapped her pen, looked at the ceiling. The Trap Humanities Pack in version C had framed public narratives as patriotic storytelling, full of grand phrases about unity and shared values. It would produce an essay that sounded impressive and missed the accusation hidden in the prompt: selective evidence, institutional responsibility, restoring justice. Concepts that required moral clarity, not decorative loyalty. The more she borrowed from the trap, the further she drifted. At one point, she turned her admission card over and stared at its blank back as if answers might bleed through from another life. They did not. When the final bell rang, I had finished every section. Song Iran had too, technically. But finishing a paper is not the same as answering it. When we exited, the sky had cleared. Sunlight struck the wet pavement so brightly that everyone squinted. It felt theatrical, almost cheap. I accepted it anyway. The accusation did not disappear after the exam. It sharpened. By afternoon, the grade forum had 3 anonymous posts. The first claimed I had sabotaged classmates by locking shared materials. The second claimed Song Iran bravely reported suspicious behavior. The third posted a cropped screenshot from my app showing folders titled Final Answer Vault, High Frequency Essay Pack, and Predicted Traps. No context.
No dates.
No proof of cheating. Enough to poison. In my first life, I had found those posts alone in my bedroom and cried until my throat tore. This time, I sat at the kitchen table while my parents watched me with frightened eyes. Is it bad? My mother asked. I turned the tablet toward them. It's familiar. Then I uploaded a statement to the same forum under my real name. Not emotional. Not pleading. I wrote that the app was my private revision tool, built from public syllabus content and personal notes, that unauthorized access had been detected, that I'd locked the vault before finals, that anyone claiming the app contained leaked answers should submit evidence to the school rather than anonymous rumors, and that I would provide logs to the disciplinary office. I attached one blurred screenshot showing failed cloned access attempts, with device names partially hidden, but timestamps visible. Then I posted one final sentence. Students who relied on stolen previews may feel wronged by a locked door, but the door was mine. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then the forum went insane. Some students accused me of arrogance. Some asked what cloned access meant. Someone from Class 9 replied, "Wait, our teacher warned us today because devices were pinging some study app after collection." Is this related? Another wrote, "If the app was hers, why were people using it without permission?" Guachin posted, "She shared it before. Don't twist facts." A student I barely knew replied, "Borrowing notes before doesn't mean you can hack her account." The word hack changed everything. It was not technically accurate, but it moved the moral picture. Suddenly, I was not the selfish girl who locked a shared resource. I was the owner of a stolen account. Song Iran did not respond publicly. Instead, Lu Meng messaged me privately.
Can we talk?
I looked at the message for a long time. In my first life, Lu Meng's testimony helped bury me. In this life, she sounded like someone standing at the edge of a river, deciding whether to jump away from a burning bridge. I replied, "Tomorrow. Bring truth, not tears." But tomorrow arrived with school security first. At 8:10 a.m., before optional review for the oral component, the disciplinary office summoned 5 students. Me, Song Iran, Lu Meng, Guachun, and Heejun. The room smelled like toner and old tea. Deputy Principal Ma sat at the center of the conference table, flanked by the IT director and teacher Zhao. Song Iran's father was there too, technically as a parent representative because she was a minor, though his suit made the room feel less like a school office and more like a courtroom bought in advance. My parents were working. I had told them not to come unless required. In my first life, I had faced a room like this alone and been devoured. This time, I carried a folder thick with printed logs. Deputy Ma began with administrative coldness. "We are investigating allegations of improper electronic revision material circulation and possible malicious interference with student preparation." Malicious interference. A phrase shaped like a net. Song Iran sat with lowered eyes. Her father sighed. "Children make mistakes under pressure. We should focus on whether any student created unfair exam advantages." He did not look at his daughter when he said it.
He looked at me.
The IT director asked for my evidence. I handed over the logs. Not screenshots only. Exported CSV tables, hash signatures, device identifiers, access timestamps, sync attempts, permission changes, version histories, and folder creation dates. I had built the app badly in some ways, but I had built logging beautifully because poor students learn early that nobody believes them without receipts. The IT director's bored expression faded line by line. "You wrote this yourself?" "Yes." "The vault entries were created over 3 years?" "Yes." "No external imports from exam databases?"
No.
"You can inspect the source references." I linked public papers and textbook pages. He nodded slowly. Deputy Ma leaned forward. Song Iran's father stopped tapping his finger. Then the IT director reached the clone session. This device accessed the master account through a temporary token 3 days before finals, renamed local cache, attempted export, then repeatedly requested locked content after permissions changed. Deputy Ma asked, "Can you identify the owner?" The IT director looked uncomfortable. The device name is SYR iPhone. Network logs may confirm, but device names can be changed. Song Iran's father smiled faintly, as if the ambiguity had saved her. Then Lu Meng raised her hand. Everyone turned. Lu Meng looked smaller than usual, her ponytail loose, her lips chapped from biting them. Song Iran stared at her, and the room filled with an invisible command. "Stay silent." Lu Meng swallowed. Iran used a link from the class group to keep access. She said Su Lian wouldn't mind because she had shared before. Then when the app locked, Iran asked me to find old screenshots. I didn't have them. Song Iran's chair scraped. Meng, what are you saying?" Her voice broke beautifully. Lu Meng flinched, but continued. She also had transparent topic tabs during the biology exam. "I don't know if there were answers. I saw color codes." Song Iran began to cry. Not the soft tears from the gate. Harder tears, forced through panic. "You're lying because Su Lian threatened you." "I didn't," I said. Lu Meng pulled something from her pocket and placed it on the table. A crumpled, transparent sticky tab. "I picked this up from the bathroom floor after she threw it away." Pattern interruption number 3. The side character produced the knife. Deputy Ma's face hardened. The tab was tiny, almost ridiculous, marked with color dots and abbreviated topic codes. On its own, it might mean nothing. Combined with app theft, false accusation, and exam day panic, it became a hinge. Song Iran's father spoke sharply. "This is absurd. A sticker proves nothing. Are we destroying a top student over stationery?" The IT director, perhaps offended by the dismissal of actual evidence, replied, "No. We are establishing a pattern of unauthorized access and possible misconduct." Teacher Zhao sat very still. I wondered whether she was remembering the art room, my tablet, her advice not to escalate. Deputy Ma asked Song Iran directly, "Did you access Su Lian's app through a clone session?" Song Iran cried harder. "I only used what she shared with the class. Everyone did. Why am I being singled out?" There it was again. Dissolve guilt into crowd behavior. If everyone touched the stolen thing, nobody stole. But logs are not crowds. Logs are specific. Timestamps are specific. Device labels are specific. Deputy Ma asked, "Did you report Su Lian's old library device use because you believed it was cheating, or because she locked your access?" Song Iran looked up, eyes shining with injured nobility. "Because I believe in fairness." I almost admired her. Even cornered, she tried to turn the word into a shield. The meeting ended without a public verdict. Schools love delay because delay feels like control. Deputy Ma said all evidence would be reviewed after finals concluded fully, and students were instructed not to post further rumors. But the room had changed. When we stepped into the corridor, Song Iran's father walked ahead, already making calls. Song Iran came beside me, face dry now. "You think this is over?" she whispered. "No," I said. "I think it's finally beginning." Her smile was small and vicious. "Even if they punish me, people will still ask why your app had answer vaults. Poor girls with secret systems make adults nervous." It was a clever sentence. Accurate even. My poverty made my ambition suspicious. Her privilege made her theft look like stress. "Maybe," I said. "But nervous adults check documents. And documents are where you keep bleeding." She stared at me. I walked away first. In the first life, I always stayed until she dismissed me. This time, I left her standing beneath a poster that read, "Character is what you do when no one is watching." I hoped the security camera above it was working. The oral component should have been minor, but it became the stage for the final turn. Each scholarship candidate had to deliver a 3-minute reflection on academic integrity and independent learning. The topic had been announced weeks earlier, and in my real vault, I had drafted a speech about building personal systems. In version C, the trap speech began with a poetic line, A student is a vessel filled by every generous hand. It was exactly the kind of sentence Song Iran loved. Graceful, humble, hollow. By then, she should have stopped trusting anything from the clone cache. But desperation has a short memory. The oral room was smaller than the exam hall, with 3 teachers at a table and a camera recording for moderation. Candidates waited outside on plastic chairs. Song Iran sat 2 seats away from me, reading from a folded page. Her hands were steady again. That worried me more than panic. Lu Meng sat at the far end, not beside her. Guochen looked between them like a dog whose owners had separated. When Song Iran's name was called, she rose, smoothed her skirt, and entered with the dignity of a princess approaching a balcony. Through the thin wall, we could hear muffled voices. Her opening sentence came clearly. A student is a vessel filled by every generous hand. I closed my eyes. Not from satisfaction. From exhaustion. She had chosen the trap not because she was stupid, but because it matched her worldview. Other people were hands. She was the vessel. Their labor existed to fill her. Her speech continued, beautiful in rhythm, praising shared resources, class unity, gratitude, collective success. Then one teacher interrupted. Oral reflections allowed follow-up questions. Song Iran, your speech emphasizes receiving help. How do you distinguish shared learning from over-reliance? Silence. A small one, but sharp. She answered something about gratitude. Another teacher asked, if a classmate creates private materials, what obligations do others have regarding consent? Longer silence. A chair creaked. Her reply became too soft to hear. When she exited, her face was composed but colorless.
She did not look at me.
My turn came next. I entered carrying no paper. The teachers looked tired, wary, perhaps expecting another performance. I stood behind the taped line and began. Independent learning is not isolation. It is responsibility. I built my revision app because I could not afford extra classes, but the important part was never the app. It was the process behind it, identifying mistakes, testing assumptions, checking whether an answer changes when the question changes. A saved answer can help a student remember, but it can also become a cage if the student worships it more than understanding. The middle teacher looked up. I continued. Integrity is often described as not cheating during an exam. That is too small. Integrity begins earlier, when we decide whether another person's labor is ours to take, whether a convenient shortcut is still honest if nobody catches us, and whether fairness means equal access to someone else's work or equal respect for boundaries. The future should not belong to students who never receive help. It should belong to students who know the difference between help and theft. My voice did not shake. The camera's red light watched me like an unblinking witness. When the teachers asked how schools should support students, I answered, by teaching methods, not distributing dependence. By protecting students who create resources, not pressuring them to surrender ownership. And by verifying evidence before sacrificing a student to preserve appearances. Teacher Zhao, sitting in the corner as observer, lowered her eyes. After the oral, finals were officially over, but the true examination began. Results would take a week. Investigations, however, move according to reputation, not calendars. Song Iran's family pushed for quiet handling. Her father requested that all students be reminded not to stigmatize collaborative study. Her mother cried in the principal's office about cyberbullying. Guochen circulated a petition asking the school not to punish students for accessing shared review materials under unclear rules. It gathered 36 signatures before someone leaked the phrase cloned session, and signatures began disappearing. Lu Meng submitted a written statement. He-jun admitted he had tried to open cached previews after device collection but claimed he thought they were his own saved notes. The IT department confirmed that multiple devices had pinged my app after the vault lock, but only Song Iran's device attempted export and cache duplication. They also found her false report timing suspicious because she submitted it verbally immediately before the scholarship-weighted exam despite allegedly seeing me 2 days earlier. None of this became public at first. But schools leak through whispers, and whispers know how to dress themselves as certainty. During that week, I learned something about revenge that stories often hide. The dramatic moments are brief. The rest is waiting while your enemy tries to become the victim loudly enough. Song Iran returned to school for post-final activities wearing softer colors, speaking less, letting her eyes redden whenever teachers passed. Some students swung back toward her, because beauty in distress is a powerful argument. Maybe she really thought the app was shared, they said. Maybe Su Lian set traps on purpose. Maybe both of them are wrong.
Both.
That word irritated me more than open insults. It is the favorite word of people who arrive after the theft and want peace without inventory. I kept attending classes. I helped a girl from class 10 debug her own flashcard spreadsheet. I lent printed biology summaries to a boy who asked politely and wrote his name on the sign-out sheet I jokingly created. I did not become cruel with my knowledge. I became careful. There is a difference, and only thieves pretend not to see it. 3 days before results, teacher Zhao asked to speak with me again. This time, she chose the counseling room, not the art room. Softer chairs. A tissue box on the table. She looked older. Su Lian, she said, I owe you an apology. The sentence landed strangely. In my first life, no teacher apologized. They expressed regret over the situation, concern over stress, hope for moving forward. Never apology. I said nothing. She continued, I pressured you to share resources because I wanted the class to support each other. I didn't consider your ownership or the possibility that others were taking advantage. A smaller, pettier part of me wanted to ask whether she needed me dead before she considered it. But the woman in front of me was not the same as the one from my first life, because I was not the same either. I had forced evidence into her hands early enough for conscience to find it. Thank you, I said. She flinched slightly, perhaps expecting anger. I had anger, plenty, but I did not want to spend it on making her perform guilt. She asked, did you create false content in the app after locking it? I met her eyes. I created a separate mirror version after detecting unauthorized access. I did not distribute it. Anyone who saw it after the lock accessed it without permission. She absorbed that. That distinction matters. It should, I said. The school announced the disciplinary outcome the same afternoon in the driest language possible. No names in the public notice. A senior student had been found to have accessed another student's private electronic revision system without authorization, attempted to duplicate restricted content, made an unsubstantiated exam-related allegation, and brought coded unauthorized reminder material into an examination environment. The student's relevant subject scores would undergo review according to examination regulations. Scholarship recommendation eligibility would be suspended pending final board decision, and the student would receive a major disciplinary warning. Another group of students received minor warnings for attempting to access cache materials after device collection. The notice also clarified that privately created revision materials remain the intellectual property of their creator unless voluntarily shared under clear consent. It was not as satisfying as a public confession. Institutions rarely give clean endings. But within 10 minutes, everyone knew. Song Iran's name did not appear. It did not need to. Her absence from the afternoon assembly was louder than any announcement. Guochen found me near the lockers. He looked angry, embarrassed, and lost. You could have told us, he said. I almost laughed. I did tell you. I said no. I mean about the cloned access. Would you have believed me? He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked away. There was my answer. We thought you were trying to sabotage Iran. Because she cried? Because she's always helped the class. With whose materials? He had no reply. For the first time, I saw him not as a villain but as something more ordinary and more disappointing. A boy who mistook proximity to beauty for moral judgment. He said quieter, some of us really did rely on the app. Finals were awful. Then learn from that. He frowned. That's cold. No, I said. Cold would be letting you keep thinking dependence is friendship. I left him there. Not every confrontation needs an explosion. Sometimes the cleanest defeat is forcing someone to stand alone with the sentence they cannot answer. Results came out on a Thursday morning. The school portal opened at 9, but everyone began refreshing at 8:30 as if impatience could hack time. I sat at our kitchen table with my parents. My mother had taken a half day, without telling me. My father pretended he was only there because rain delayed deliveries, though the sky was brutally clear. At 9:02, the page loaded. Chinese literature, 96. Maths, 100. Biology/chemistry, 98. English, 97. Humanities, 99.
Oral, excellent.
Total rank, first in grade. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then my mother made a sound I had never heard before, half sob, half laugh, and covered her mouth. My father stood so fast his chair hit the wall. First, he said, as if the word needed translation. I nodded. He turned away, rubbing his face with both hands. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. In my first life, my results had been frozen behind a red notice, under review. This time, they shone quietly, undeniable. Not borrowed. Not leaked. Not saved from anyone else's app.
Mine.
Song Iran ranked 19th before review adjustments. 19th was not failure for ordinary students. For Song Iran, it was exile. Her literature essay had gone off prompt. Her maths proof collapsed. Her science answers carried elegant misconceptions. Her humanities essay was described, according to a teacher leak, as rhetorically strong but insufficiently responsive to the question. Beautiful and wrong. That could have been the title of her life. After disciplinary review, 2 of her subject scores received deductions for unauthorized reminder material and misconduct during the exam period. Her scholarship eligibility was withdrawn. The provincial recommendation went to me. The school forum, which once crowned her untouchable, turned savage with the same hunger it had aimed at me in the first life. I did not join. Watching a crowd devour someone is less satisfying when you have been meat before. I posted nothing. I celebrated at home with supermarket cake, the cheap kind with too much cream. My father cut slices too large. My mother took photos until I complained. That night, for the first time since rebirth, I slept without dreaming of rain. But Song Iran was not done. People like her mistake consequence for temporary weather. 2 days after results, I received a message from an unknown number. Meet me behind the auditorium. Unless you want your app source code sent to the Education Bureau with anonymous claims you sold answer predictions. I stared at it, almost impressed by the persistence. The old me might have panicked. The reborn me checked the metadata, screenshotted the message, sent it to my email, and walked to the auditorium 10 minutes early with my tablet recording audio in my bag. The back of the auditorium smelled of dust and sun-heated concrete. Posters from last semester's arts festival curled at the edges. Song Iran stood beneath them in a pale dress instead of uniform, looking less like a student and more like a fallen idol trying on civilian skin.
You came, she said.
You threatened me. I invited you. Your invitations need work. Her smile twitched. You ruined my life. There it was, the sentence I had carried from another timeline, returned with the names reversed. I leaned against the wall.
No, Jiran.
I locked my app. You did the rest. Her eyes flashed. You set fake content. Behind a locked door. You knew I might see it. Because you stole a key. She stepped closer. Without the school audience, her beauty felt sharper, less polished, like glass broken from a frame. Do you think anyone will keep loving a poor top student who acts this ruthless? They praised you this week because they hate scandal. But scholarship interviews are different. Committees like clean stories. Yours is messy. So was yours. Mine was inspiring. Mine is documented. She laughed softly. Documentation doesn't make people like you. That hurt because it was true. Evidence can protect you from punishment, but it cannot force affection. In my first life, I wanted everyone to like me again. In this life, I had learned that being liked by people who enjoy your usefulness is just another form of unpaid labor. I don't need them to like me, I said. I need them to stop lying about me. Her gaze dropped to my bag. She realized too late. Are you recording? I smiled. Desperation wastes oxygen. She lunged for my bag. Not dramatically, not like a movie villain, but with the quick, ugly panic of someone who saw her last weapon slipping. I stepped back. The auditorium's side door opened. Lu Meng stood there with Teacher Zhao. For one absurd second, all four of us froze like actors who had missed a cue. Then Song Yiran straightened, tears already gathering. Teacher, Su Lian provoked me. Teacher Zhao did not soften. I heard enough from the hallway. Lu Meng looked terrified but determined. I had not asked her to come. Later, she told me she saw Song Yiran follow me and feared another trap. Maybe guilt had finally ripened into courage. Maybe she wanted to save herself. Motives are rarely pure. Outcomes still matter. Teacher, Zhao held out her hand. Su Lian, send the recording to Deputy Ma. Song Yiran stared at her. You're choosing her? Teacher Zhao's face tightened. I'm choosing the student who brought evidence instead of threats. It was not a perfect redemption, but it was a sentence my first life self would have wept to hear. The second disciplinary meeting was shorter. Threatening a student after an active investigation simplified matters. Song Yiran's father came again, but his anger had lost its elegance. The school now had logs, witness statements, a coded tab, a false exam day accusation, and a recording of intimidation. The board suspended Song Yiran from the graduation honor ceremony and issued a formal integrity violation on her internal record. Her family withdrew her from school before the notice became a spectacle. Officially, she transferred for health and personal reasons. Unofficially, everyone knew she had fallen through the floor she spent years polishing. On her last day, she cleaned out her locker during lunch when most students were outside. I saw her from the stairwell. No crowd. No white car at the gate yet. No boys carrying boxes for her. Just Song Yiran placing textbooks into a bag with mechanical precision. For a moment, she looked very young. Then she noticed me. We stared at each other across the corridor. I expected rage, or tears, or one final threat. Instead, she said, in another life, I would have won. My blood went cold. Did she know? Could she remember? Then she smiled bitterly. Girls like me usually do. I understood. Not memory.
Pattern.
She knew the world's habits. So did I. Not this one, I said. She closed her locker. The sound echoed like a small verdict. The provincial scholarship interview took place 2 weeks later in a government building with polished floors and air conditioning cold enough to punish nerves. I wore my school uniform because I could not afford a suit, and my mother ironed it 3 times until the pleats looked sharp enough to cut fruit. The waiting room held students from elite schools, their folders thick, their shoes expensive, their faces trained into polite ambition. For a moment, old insecurity rose in me. My app had won at school, but here everyone had systems, tutors, recommendations, parents who knew which fork belonged to which banquet. Then I remember the essay prompt, silent resistance, moral force through restraint. I sat straight and opened my folder. When my name was called, the interview panel asked about my grades, my app, the misconduct scandal without naming it, and how I understood academic integrity after recent events. I did not perform victimhood. I told them the truth, that I built tools because I lacked resources, that tools become dangerous when students chase saved answers instead of reasoning, that schools should teach digital ownership alongside exam honesty, that poor students' creations deserve protection, not compulsory sharing under moral pressure. One panelist, a woman with silver hair, asked, "And if classmates ask to use your app in the future?" I answered, "I'll build a public version with clear permissions and learning steps. But the master vault stays mine." She smiled. Good. Generosity without boundaries is just extraction. I received the scholarship. Not in a dramatic ceremony, not under fireworks, but through an email that arrived at 4:37 p.m. while I was washing dishes. I read it once, then again, then carried the dripping plate into the living room because my hands forgot what they were doing. My mother screamed. My father thought something terrible had happened and ran in holding a wrench. When he understood, he sat down heavily on the sofa and laughed until he cried. We ordered noodles from the restaurant downstairs, the one we usually avoided because delivery fees felt wasteful. My mother said we should take a family photo. My father said he needed to change shirts. I said he looked fine. He changed anyway. In the photo, my eyes were puffy, my mother's hair was messy, and my father's smile looked like it had fought its way out after years underground. I saved it in the same folder as my app backups. Not because family belonged beside evidence, but because both proved something important. I had survived, and I had receipts. Graduation came in heavy summer heat. The auditorium was decorated with blue banners and wilting flowers. Song Iran's seat stayed empty. The honor board had been updated overnight. My name appeared at the top for overall rank, mathematics excellence, independent research, and provincial scholarship recommendation.
Suli An.
Simple characters. Black on gold. In my first life, I had stood beneath that board after the accusations, watching workers remove my pending award while students pretended not to stare. Now teacher Zhao called my name on stage. Applause rose. Some of it was sincere. Some of it was guilty. Some of it was simply because people clap when a room tells them to. I accepted the certificate with both hands. Under the stage lights, I saw my parents near the back. My mother was crying openly. My father filmed with his phone held vertically and slightly tilted, probably capturing more ceiling than daughter. I loved him for it. When I stepped up to give the graduate speech, the hall quieted. I had written 3 versions. One was safe, full of gratitude. One was sharp, full of knives. The final one was neither. For a long time, I began. I believed success meant having the right answers saved somewhere. In a notebook, in an app, in a teacher's praise, in another person's approval. Finals taught me something different. A saved answer is only useful if you understand why it works, and a locked door is not an act of cruelty when what it protects was built with someone's life. The teachers shifted. Students listened harder. We talk often about sharing. Sharing knowledge is good. Sharing methods is good. Helping classmates is good. But help without consent is not sharing. Pressure disguised as kindness is not unity. And fairness does not mean demanding that one student's labor become everyone's shortcut. I paused. My heart beat steadily. The future will ask questions that do not match our templates. When that happens, I hope we do not panic because the saved answer is gone. I hope we learn enough to write our own. For 1 second, there was silence. Then applause. Not thunderous at first, then growing. I looked at the honor board, at my parents, at the empty seat where Song Iran should have been, and felt the last thread of my first life loosen around my throat. After graduation, Lumeng found me near the courtyard tree, where students were taking photos. She held a small gift bag. "I don't know if I have the right to give you anything," she said. "Probably not," I answered. She winced. Honesty is not always graceful. She handed me the bag anyway. Inside was a plain fountain pen and a note. "I'm sorry I was silent when it mattered. I'm trying not to be that person again." I looked at her. In my first life, I had hated her for testifying against me. In this life, she had helped expose the truth. Both versions lived in my memory, and neither erased the other. "Thank you for telling the truth," I said. "That doesn't fix everything." She nodded quickly. "I know, but it matters." Her eyes filled with tears, the ordinary kind, not weaponized. We stood awkwardly in the noise of celebration. Then she said, "Your public app version, if you make one, can I help test it? With permissions. Properly." I almost said no automatically. Then I thought of the scholarship panelists' words. Generosity, with boundaries. "Maybe," I said. "You'll sign a user agreement." She laughed through tears. "That sounds like you." Good, I thought. Let it. I did build the public version that summer. Not a vault of saved answers. A learning system. It showed students how to break down prompts, why wrong answers were wrong, how to adapt structures instead of memorizing them. It limited screenshots, tracked progress individually, and displayed a message on the welcome screen. Borrow methods. Build understanding. Respect ownership. Some classmates used it genuinely. Some complained that it was less useful because it did not simply tell them what to write. I took that as proof it worked. The app won a Student Innovation Award months later, which made me laugh because it began as a survival tool held together by stubbornness and cheap code. During the award interview, a journalist asked whether the finals scandal inspired the app's security design. I said, "It inspired the permission design." She asked what the difference was. I answered, "Security keeps people out. Permission teaches them why the door exists." The quote appeared in the article. My father printed 3 copies and mailed one to my aunt, who called to say she did not understand the app but liked that I sounded expensive. As for Song Iran, I heard rumors. She transferred to a private school in another district. Her family hired consultants. Some said she repeated the year.
Some said she went abroad.
Some said she posted anonymous essays online about being destroyed by jealousy. I never checked. In my first life, I had spent months refreshing pages that hated me, trying to measure whether the world still believed I deserved air. In this life, I refused to donate my attention to my own wound. But one message did reach me, half a year later, from an account with no profile picture. "Do you ever feel guilty?" I knew it was her. Or maybe I only wanted it to be. I typed several replies. "No, too simple." "Do you?" "Too childish." "I hope you learn." "Too generous." In the end, I wrote, "I feel responsible for what I build. You should try it." Then I blocked the account. My hand did not shake. Growth is not always forgiveness. Sometimes it is just learning not to reopen locked doors. Years later, when people asked about my final year of school, they expected a neat, inspirational story. Poor girl builds app, beats rich beauty, wins scholarship. They liked that version because it was clean. It turned pain into branding and justice into a trophy. The truth was messier. I was not noble every second. I set a trap behind my locked vault and felt satisfaction when a thief stepped into it. I wanted revenge, not just fairness. I enjoyed watching Song Iran's perfect handwriting become a cage. I also worked hard, told the truth, protected my family, and built something better afterward. People prefer victims who never bare teeth. But if you return from a life where silence killed you, you learn the value of teeth. I do not apologize for surviving with mine. On the anniversary of finals, I visited the old library building once before leaving for university. The vending machine was still broken. The Wi-Fi was still weak. Dust floated in the afternoon light like tiny, undecided ghosts. I sat at the same table where I had locked the master vault and watched Song Iran's clone session beg for access. My younger self felt close there, not the reborn one, but the first life girl who had wanted so badly to be liked that she handed her future to people who called theft friendship. I wished I could tell her she was not stupid. Lonely, yes. Pressured, yes. Young, yes. But not stupid. She built a door before she knew monsters could turn handles. That was not foolish. That was the beginning of wisdom. I opened my app one last time on the old tablet with a yellow line across the screen. The master vault loaded, archived now. Folder after folder of notes, mistakes, predictions, and model structures stared back at me. At the top sat the lock icon I had once feared would make everyone hate me. I touched it gently. A locked door had cost me a classroom's approval. It had saved my name. It had exposed a thief. It had taught me that boundaries are not walls against kindness. They are the shape kindness needs so it does not become consumption. Outside, students laughed on the sports field, already living dramas that felt like the end of the world. I hoped they would be gentler than we had been. I hoped they would learn earlier. But hope, like revision, is not enough without practice. Before leaving, I wrote a new note inside the app, not for public users, not for classmates, not for scholarship panels. For myself. Final lesson: never confuse being needed with being valued. Never confuse praise with respect. Never confuse access with consent. If the saved answer disappears, think. If the crowd turns, stand. If the school beauty cries, check the logs. I laughed after typing the last sentence. It was too sharp, too specific, too mine. Then I locked the vault and powered off the tablet. The screen went black, reflecting my face back at me. Older than the girl who died, younger than the woman I would become, no longer waiting for permission to protect what I had built. When I stepped outside, The sun was low and gold across the courtyard. The honor board glinted near the main hall. My name was still there, but I no longer needed to stare at it to prove I existed. A group of younger students hurried past, arguing about a mock exam. One girl clutched a stack of handwritten notes to her chest while another asked, "Can you send me everything?" The note-holding girl hesitated. I slowed without meaning to. Then she said, "I can explain my method, but I'm not sending the full notebook." Her friend groaned but nodded. I smiled and kept walking. Maybe the world did not change all at once. Maybe it changed in tiny locked doors, in one girl saying no without apologizing, in one friend learning to ask properly, in one teacher thinking twice before calling boundaries selfish. At the gate, my father waited on his delivery scooter, pretending he happened to be nearby. "University student," he called, tossing me the spare helmet. "Need a ride?" I put it on. "Your scooter is embarrassing. Scholarship winner can buy me a car later." Keep dreaming. That's what I've been doing. I climbed on behind him, holding the certificate folder against my chest. As we pulled away, the school shrank in the mirror. Classrooms, banners, auditorium, old library, all the places where I had been cornered and all the places where I had learned to corner back. I did not feel triumphant exactly. Triumph is loud. What I felt was steadier. Ownership, not just of an app or a rank or a future others tried to steal. Ownership of my own story. Because in my first life, I unlocked the revision app, and Song Iran took every saved answer until even my innocence looked copied. In this life, I locked it. She lost her borrowed certainty, her perfect script, her saved routes through questions she never understood. Finals did not destroy her, because I was cruel. Finals revealed her because she had built herself out of access to other people. And me? I finally learned that the most powerful answer I ever saved was not in the vault at all. It was one word, spoken calmly in a classroom full of hungry hands.
No.